Palesa, yes, a very, very good morning to you as well, and to viewers that have just tuned in, broadcasting to you live from a hilltop in a nature reserve in the Northern Cape, basically just near Sutherland. We've basically broadcasting from a modern astronomical engineering feat here. It's the South African Large Telescope. It's the largest optical telescope in the Southern Hemisphere and equal to the largest in the world. I mean, what a privilege to be broadcasting inside here.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to see it, you know. Just the scale of it. I mean, you've seen telescopes here and there, but the scale of this is absolutely amazing. They've built a huge building around it. It's I mean, I'm sure you'll get into it, but it floats on air to move around. It doesn't roll around on tires. They move it. Similar way to a hovercraft would work.
It's unbelievable. I mean, when you hear and see this device moving, I mean, it's 82 tons that moves around. But listen, we're just giving you some of the facts we've heard. The details are going to come to you in just a few minutes' time, because I'm going to be joined by one of the professors and the director here at SALT, and he can talk to us about absolutely everything. But for what you can talk to us about is the weather. Because, I mean, we were hoping, well, you were hoping to be freezing outside, and in fact, so was I am. I'm so kitted in thermals that I'm beginning to sweat because I'm so hot. But I mean, outside it is the wind is howling, and now it started to rain.
Yeah, it started to rain. I've just been outside looking there. Unfortunately, we can't go outside at the moment, but I'm sure sometime during the broadcast we'll get to go outside. But speaking of the weather, it's having an effect on us. I'm sure it's going to affect your day, so let's get right into it. First of all, we're going to start off with today's weather map, and of course, as you can see towards the southwest, we are seeing a strong cold front passing by, and what that's causing for today is a lot of rainfall, isolated to scattered showers forecast throughout the entire southern part of the country. In fact, as we start to take a look at today's weather map, we see warnings, first of all, for high seas over the southern coastline of South Africa with swells above 6 meters. We're also seeing a weather watch for heavy rainfalls over Cape Town and the surrounding areas. Lots of rainfall coming into the southern parts of the country as that frontal system passes by. Now, we're also expecting snow over the higher regions in the interior of the Eastern Cape province, so be aware of that. Another weather warning for you for conditions highly conducive to the spread of veld fires over South Africa's northeastern regions there, and it extends as well into the Free State. So again, be aware of that. In terms of your temperatures for today, and in a little bit more detail into your provinces, what we're going to see is Pretoria peaking at 30 degrees, Johannesburg a warm 29-degree high, and moving further north, we're going to continue to see very, very warm temperatures all the way up into the 30s. It is going to be a warm one in the northeast, and that's what you can expect there in the northeast. Of course, in the southwest, much, much colder behind that frontal system. Now, this is where I'm going to leave your weather for now, and we're going to get something very, very interesting. Leanne, what have you got for us?
All right, Phil, thank you very, very much for that weather update. And I did see that the temperature outside is it's 6.8 degrees. No, I'm not impressed. I thought it was a lot less than that. I really did. Feels a lot less with the wind.
6.8 degrees, but with gusts of wind up to, I think somebody said 55 kilometers per hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I could feel that.
That's what's making it feel so cold,
I could feel that. I could feel that. Anyway, thanks, Phil. We'll get another weather update from you now. But as I promised you, let's talk a little bit more in depth about this telescope and what it's discovered and its purposes and uses throughout the year. I mean, in fact, one of the most incredible discoveries that was made by this is the revelation of a supermassive black hole in the center of this modest galaxy out there. It actually all sounds like gibberish to me, and that's why we have professors like the one I'm going to be chatting to now, Professor Ted Williams, who is a director here at the South African Astronomical Observatory. It is so good to be here and to have you talking to us. Thanks for being our guest.
Well, good morning. Welcome to SALT, the Southern African Large Telescope, and we're very pleased to have you and all your viewers here.
It's absolutely incredible being here, because I mean, when I think of a telescope, and I think of most of South Africans, you think of this little telescope that you stick your eye into and then you look up at the stars. This telescope, I mean, this changes the definition of what it actually means to the average person.
And nobody looks through this telescope. There's no eyepiece where you can actually look through this telescope. It's instrumented with modern scientific detectors. All the data go directly into computers, so it's not the view of a telescope that you have of the little one in your backyard.
Yeah, that's the reality. It's very different. I mean, in fact, that you are seeing what I was reading, and I mean, please correct me. I mean, the power of this can actually see a candle burning on the moon. Is that how powerful it is?
If there were air on the moon to burn a candle, yes, we could see it.
Amazing.
And we can see out to bright objects on the other side of the universe.
Talk to me about some of the discoveries. I mean, I'm speaking about the revelation of this supermassive black hole in the galaxy, which apparently was stumbled on by absolute accident. But I mean, some of the major discoveries and what it means to the world.
We're doing a lot of world-class science here. Some of it's pretty technical, but one of the things that was just recently discovered, just a few weeks ago, was what's called a white dwarf pulsar. It's the first one that's ever been detected. And a white dwarf is an object with the mass of the sun, but compacted down to the size of the Earth. So it's 1,000,000 times more dense than the soil underneath our feet. Yeah. A huge gravity, and that causes very strong magnetic fields to produce this beaming pulsar effect. Now, these were known for the last 50 years or so, but only in another class of objects called neutron stars. And just recently we've discovered the very first one in a white dwarf star. So that's telling us a lot about how stars end their lives and the magnetic fields in stars and very energetic processes on their surfaces. And some of the data that supported those conclusions came from this telescope.
It's incredible, but I mean, I think what's more incredible about this is the fact that yes, this is it's 30% owned by South Africa and was built here in South Africa. Is that correct?
Yes,
it
was built in South Africa by South Africans.
Magic. But there are partners. I mean, partners from all over the world, the United States, New Zealand, different countries that actually do work here as well.
Yes, it's run by a consortium of international partners. As you said, South Africa is the largest partner with about a 33% share, and the rest of the partners have smaller shares. They get time on the telescope, observing time, in proportion to the share of the telescope that they own. Yeah. So, for example, South Africa gets 33% of the observing time.
This telescope, we talk about it being the equivalent to the largest in the world, but the location of this telescope. Talk to us about this, because I mean, I know this has been lauded as the perfect area, and I mean, I can give a whole bunch of definitions as to why, but let's get it from you. This area specifically, why?
There are two things that are really special about this observatory. One is its darkness. There's very little population in this area, so very few lights at night, making the sky very, very dark. I've been to observatories around the world, and this is the darkest place I've ever been. So that allows us to see fainter things. There's less background light competing with the very distant galaxies that we're observing.
Would you say this is the darkest place in the world? Could we be as bold as to say that?
The darkest observatory. There may be darker places, but places where there are astronomical observatories, this is the darkest one I've ever seen.
Unbelievable.
So that's one claim to fame. Another is just the location. There are Southern Hemisphere telescopes in Australia. There are Southern Hemisphere telescopes in Chile, but at this longitude, the longitude of Africa, this is the only big observatory. So if you want continuous coverage as the Earth spins on its axis, you have to have observatories scattered around the world at all longitudes. So having something at this longitude allows us to detect objects that are variable, and something is only happening when it's visible here at this telescope. We're the ones that can do it.
Amazing. Professor Williams, thank you so much for talking to us here on the program, and thank you for waking up, because you only got off work at midnight, so which is interesting, and the student angle is what we're going to be talking about a little bit later, and you were sitting with one of the students up until midnight working here, so thank you so much for being with us here on Morning Live. It's been a pleasure.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. I mean, that's what's so wonderful and almost surreal about this place, is that in the day, you know, it's lovely to come and have a look and visit, but at night, that's when the work begins, because that's, of course, where everybody takes on their shift. Now, this is probably about 15 k's just outside of Sutherland. And Sutherland, the population, about 3,800 people. It's a small little town, but let me tell you, there's so much happening in that little town that is freezing. It's been described as the coldest place in South Africa, but there seems to be a lot more to Sutherland. Take a look.